start?
Yep.
We're live.
So, welcome. Welcome. Those who are here, those who are coming, those who are about to come. Welcome, all of you. This is the Interfaith Community Sanctuary, and this is the fourth Sunday service, Interspiritual Worship with Reverend Karen Lindquist. And our friend Isla Ross, sacred musician, purveyor of sacred music and also a musician who is sacred in her own right. Welcome. You know, we've already done the hard part. We set this up and we all showed up. It's really like, from this point, it's just like knocking a rock off a cliff, you know, and it falls to the ground. So everybody can just relax. And we're going to start off with our friend Chris Repsevich, who I'm going to hand a microphone. Use it wisely.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Isla. I'm proud and excited to be here this morning. I wanted to call in our ancestors and offer a prayer that I did in the past, last week and previous, which seemed to get a pretty good response. It's known by most citations as All My Relations. It's from the Lakota, and it actually begins, Aho mitikuye oyasin. All my relations, I honor you in this circle of life with me today. I am grateful for this opportunity to acknowledge you in prayer. To the Creator for the ultimate gift of life, I thank you. To the mineral nation that has built and maintained my bones and all the foundations of life experience, I thank you. To the plant nation that sustains my organs and body and gives me healing herbs for sickness, I thank you. To the animal nation that feeds me from your own flesh and offers your loyal companionship in this walk of life, I thank you. To the human nation that shares my path as a soul upon the sacred wheel of earthly life, I thank you. To the spirit nation that guides me invisibly through the ups and downs of life and for carrying the torch of life, light through the ages, I thank you. To the four winds of change and growth, I thank you. You who are all my relations, my relatives, without whom I would not live. We are in the circle of life together, coexisting, codependent, co-creating our destiny. One not more important than the other. One nation evolving from the other, and yet each dependent upon the one above and the one below. All of us are part of the great mystery. I thank you for this life. Now, you may recognize that Lakota is I believe, a Northern Plains people. Maybe some people might not think resonant with folks at the Pacific Northwest. It is my belief that this land that Interfaith Community Sanctuary sits on, this land that our homes here in North America, I believe also in South America, were first inhabited and held sacred and brought to bear fruit by indigenous peoples. And in this area of the Pacific Northwest, it was known as the Coast Salish peoples. Here in Seattle itself, there's the Duwamish. You could also mention the Muckleshoot, the Salish, many other tribes and peoples that we know of and that have passed into the beyond history. But I'd like to acknowledge their contribution and know that they held this land sacred, as do we, and we wish to honor the Duwamish and hope that someday through the greater vision of the U.S. government that they may hold their contributions also as sacred and bring them to respected First Nations people status as a national entity. And my good friend and our good friend, Siswinkwe Laurel Boucher, has taught us a prayer that I'd like to end with, which if you wanted to put your hand on your heart, and when I do that, I think of gathering all that's human with us, and then we can raise that gathering up to the sky, and as that's raised, the Creator may take that and bring us back a gift. as we say that prayer, we say the sacred words, oh. So I'd like to do that together with you, and for folks at home, it can also do that. Oh. Blessed be. Thank you.
Everyone is welcome to join in the chanting. This song is to the Divine Mother, and there are 3 verses, but they're very simple, and I'll repeat them each twice. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Whoops, spelled that way. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. 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 Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. 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 Chamunde Kali Durga Ma. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Chamunde Kali Durga Ma. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Chamunde Kali Durga Ma. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Chamunde Kali Durga Ma. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai 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 Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. Jaya Jagadambe Ma Durga. Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma. 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 Shri Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma.
Thank you. So I'm going to say just a little bit, about our discernment for this year and what we've been working on this month as well. And our discernment for the year is transforming the body, heart, and mind. And we're talking about that in kind of a systematic way, where we're starting with the fundamentals of the spiritual path, really any spiritual path. You know, getting your life in order so you can actually pay attention to that aspect of life. You know, having a kind of moral or ethical footing, so that you, you know, have just a basic sense of how we are being human beings. You know, that's kind of the foundational things. And we worked on that for the first 3 months, and now we're looking at, now that we've got that accomplished, we're looking at the second phase, which is really being on a spiritual path. What does being on a spiritual path mean? What do you do? What are the skillful means, as they say in the Buddhist tradition? And you know, this is really, in a sense, about educating ourselves about, or I want to say in, the spiritual world. And we're starting this month with, as we're starting each of these sections, with our relationship with the body. You know, so we're calling this month Refining the Body. Is that right? We're starting this month. Yes, good. So what do we mean by that? You know, we have a sense of what we mean by refining our minds. You know, we have a sense of kind of the education and the focus and that goes with, like, you know, there's an expression, being a refined person, right? We have a sense of what that's like. What does that mean when we apply it to our body? I think what's key here is that our bodies exist on a lot of different levels. You know, it's not just one level. We're not just talking about the physics or the chemistry or the very material basis of our body. That's part of our body, but you know, what's much more important to us in our experience is how we experience our body. You know, how do we experience our nervous system? How do we experience our emotions? How do we experience our digestion? You know, we don't experience these things as some sort of mechanical process. It's not like fixing a toaster. You know, we have a very different relationship. And when we talk about refining the body, what we're really talking about is working harmoniously with our body, with our physical presence in the universe, so that it's not an obstacle for us, you know, so that it's a source of joy and inspiration and a teacher for us, rather than a stumbling block. So, I'm going to hand you over to Reverend Karen, and we'll get to that. Oh, we have something else first. Good. We are swimming in riches.
Oh ma, oh ma, oh ma, oh ma, oh ma, oh ma.
So in your order of service, there's a prayer for the Divine Feminine that I'm going to invite you to say with me. Fill me with your beauty and grace, your silence and peace, your strength and courage, your understanding and acceptance, your openness and receptivity. Bless me with your ability to hold the light and give it expression in the world of form. Thank you. So as Michael talked about our discernment for the year, we've traveled through several months so far, and I'm just going to review a little bit of what we accomplished on our fourth Sunday. And in January, we shared a chant of the universe, Om Namah Shivaya. And we anchored in purifying our body. And then in February, we worked on cleansing the heart, and we read Rumi love poetry. And in March, we worked on observing the mind. And as part of that service, we recited the prayer of light offered by Prophet Muhammad, and it was during the month of Ramadan. So this month, in April, we're refining the body. We're back again to starting with our foundation and moving us through our journey with consciousness. And one of the most important things, I think that prayer for the Divine Feminine helps us recall what are the refining qualities that we need to cultivate, and how we can draw upon the divine energies to help us refine ourselves, refine our body. And we are so connected to the world, so connected to the elements, that I thought we might do a journey through the elements a little bit, touch on that. And one of the things I want us to work on, I have some rocks here, and I have a candle representing fire, and I have some other things that I'll share with you as we continue talking. But some of the things in my preparation for this service, it's this idea, this consciousness that we are so connected to the elemental world that we live in, and that, as many of the mystics have told us forever, is that there are messages, there are signs, there are awakenings possible for us by perceiving what is happening in the moment and what is happening through nature, through the trees, through the wind, through the leaves, through the soil, through the animals, through the creatures. And that our refining ourselves includes the growing in capacity to be able to perceive what is the sign that the divine is giving us. First of all, it's a blessing. We are blessed to be in this environment. We are blessed to have a life. And we can get so caught up with worldly things that it's easy for us to overlook the blessings that are happening moment by moment. So one of the things I'd like to do is, this is a First Peoples tradition that, again, our guides, Sis Winclay, has shared with us, is that we would pass this flame of light. So Michael, could you help me? We'll light the center candle and we'll pass it. And what we're doing is we're absorbing fire. And that fire is such a basic element, and one that we have been forged from. So this process is a sharing in a circle of each of us receiving this light with consciousness and with benevolence. So if you could hand that to me, that'd be great. And this is often offered in the women's Sisiwas medicine circle, or even the open medicine circle, where this attuning to the flame brings us into that state of opening in consciousness. And we bathe ourselves with the light of the flame. And I'll pass it to you next. You will use it first and then pass it. Yes, can you use the flame to receive the flame and then pass it? Thank you. Sure, whatever you like. Thank you. So I have found that in order to perceive the signs that are coming from the infinite world, the eternal world, coming through the divine to us, sitting in silence is the best way to refine our bodies, to refine our senses, refine our hearing, so that we can receive. So allow yourself to just be still and receive the light. One of the things that I feel is our responsibility here at this time is that we learn these skills of how to heal ourselves, and through that process, we are healing the world. It is no small thing that you attune yourself to receive the light represented through this flame in this candle. And refining the body is not so far away from purification of the body. Using the pure elements and receiving those allows us to attune to that naturalness and that deep vibration of the world. And one of the things that's happening in the world, of course, that so many people are having an experience of conflict, pain, violence, starvation, illness. So it becomes our responsibility to do what we can through the blessing we have of having a body and having life. And sometimes we have to have this experience where we might be afraid. And we might be afraid of the fire. And we might be afraid of the light. And yet we've learned, our humanity has learned, our society has learned about the importance of going directly into the source of issues, of difficulties, and finding that solution. And I'm advocating that those solutions are available to us through our environment, through our elements, through each other, through times in contemplation as we sit here together. So as this healing flame is moving through the room, we can imagine that that healing is also permeating into the world, out of our building, into the neighborhood, into our city, into the world. And when I was doing the invitation for this service today, there was a quote that I found, and maybe you read it in the invitation, but I'd like to read this. And this is by a person named Jeff Foster. And these are things for us to look at, as to how we have been wounded and can heal. But he speaks this, he says, perhaps our dreams are there to be broken, and our plans are there to crumble, and our tomorrows are there to dissolve into todays. And perhaps all of this is all a giant invitation to wake up from the dream of separation, to awaken from the mirage of control and embrace wholeheartedly what is present. Perhaps it is a call to compassion, to a deep embrace of this universe in all its bliss and pain and bittersweet glory. Perhaps we were never really in control of our lives, and perhaps we are consistently invited to remember this, since we consistently forget it. Perhaps suffering is not the enemy at all, and at its core there is a first-hand, real-time lesson we must all learn if we are to be truly human and truly divine. Perhaps breakdown always contains breakthrough. Perhaps suffering is simply a rite of passage, not a test or a punishment, nor a signpost to something in the future or past, but a direct pointer to the mystery of existence itself, here and now. Perhaps life cannot go wrong at all. So the other belief in the world is a healing place, and not only the belief in that, but the fact that we can be a catalyst to make that be a reality is one of our tasks here. That we can imagine there's a perfect world, there's a perfect infinite space, and that we are moving toward that. And yet we also know that as we interface with these pure natural elements, that we can be receiving the signs, the messages, to be solutions. And so the next thing I'd like to share with you is something that I learned, that I suspected, but I learned recently. Someone spoke, Stephen Heller, a Gnostic bishop, talks about how the basis of all these elements is a feminine energy, a feminine space. And when we are talking about refining our body, we have this sense sometimes that the body is burdensome for us. And what we want to do is bless it so deeply that it frees up. It frees up. So we have these rocks here. So I'd like to pass these out. And I'd like you to hold the rock. And right now they're cool, but they're going to warm up in your hands. So the rocks are cool now, but they're going to warm up in your hand, and you're going to have this symbiotic relationship with the density. And this idea that Bishop Heller had said was that not only is the basis of all these elements of feminine energy, but that the first image ever that happened within humanity of a divine was a rock and was mountains. And I found that fascinating because it's very helpful for us to feel in this kinetic sense, this density, and remind us that this is real. And this is also our basis, and this is also the space for transformation. Oh, I'd like one. Thank you. So throughout our time together here, if you keep infusing your life energy into this cold stone, then at the end this will be a healing amulet that can be taken home, it can be shared, it can be placed in the world someplace special. And so we'll keep that going as we continue. So having a body, and one of the things that is happening certainly in my life, and has been happening that I've been waking up to, is aging. Aging is something that is happening to all of us. It happens through time. And I'm so delighted we have a young child visiting us today, too. So thank you for coming today. And this may be an opportunity for you to remember what it was like when you were young and you used to explore the world. And one thing we were able to do when we were kids is to explore our environment more than we do now, playing in the dirt, falling and scraping our knees and recovering. And so here we are mature and growing. And one of the things that happens as we mature, we begin to realize this responsibility that we have. And we can look back on youth and recognize they don't yet have the same consciousness we have. The other thing is that as mature spiritual beings and people in our community here, the idea that we have this responsibility to heal the world is not a trivial thing. It is not a minor thing. It is an absolute necessity for us to put our life energy into the possibility that we heal our own issues, our own wounds, and that we assist others. And many of the ways that this happens is simply through being in each other's presence and having a blessing that exudes from you naturally, not that you intend, not that you force, but it happens absolutely naturally. There was a quote from the Dalai Lama that talked about when people are sending out love from their heart, that it transfers and multiplies. And so even as we're looking at ourselves gently here and our rock is warming up here, we know that that's the kind of influence our physical body can have on the world. That the great blessing of being in a physical body, the great blessing of having a body, and it's this kind of refinement of consciousness and refinement of intention that allows us to make this true healing in the world. So there's a thing about what we are becoming. So we know we have a life, that we have we serve in the world. We also have dreams and visions and hopes. And those are so important. What we want to do is give an opportunity for freedom of thought and a freedom of consciousness to envision things that you've not thought of before. We need profound solutions, and those will come through our contemplation and making space in our hearts and our consciousness and refining our body. One of the things that happens in a situation like this. Here we are in a sacred space, and here we are behaving ourselves, as we do in a sacred setting, and yet we don't have to. We don't have to limit ourselves to that way. There's a lot more expansiveness that should happen, and we've all been trained to hold ourselves together. And yet refining the body, you need to have that discipline. You need to have that ability to focus, and that ability to follow through, and that ability to succeed. But the other thing is you need to have space for complete creativity and unexpected thoughts and unexpected emotions. And even if we're sitting here, if we realize that the entire world is sending us divine messages, we are lucky in our space here. We can see the trees and the leaves outside, and we can see the air moving. And we're also in a room now where we're all breathing. And we're breathing each other's air. And we're feeling each other's pulse. And we're having an experience, but we don't usually call attention to that experience. So I'm going to invite us to spend a moment connecting with where you are sitting in relation to the world, also in relation to the circle. So I'm going to invite us to spend a moment connecting with where you are sitting in relation to the world, also in relation to the circle. So I'm going to share with you a couple more things. One is the idea of receiving further, and I'm going to pass for you a fragrance. And this fragrance, part of the reason for the fragrance is some people might be sensitive, so we'll be careful about that. But it's called Ferdos, and it's supposedly a fragrance, the red one, yeah, a fragrance that represents the scent of heaven. And this, sorry, can you pull the lid off? I don't know if this helps. Just past that, maybe. This I received as a gift many years ago, and I find it that it does evoke a scent that is new for me, and it reminds me how if we see ourselves as vibration and light, not dense, that it helps free us up for new inspiration that can come in. So this month, it ended yesterday, was the month of Ramadan, where one of the activities in the Islamic tradition is the daily prayers, the prostration prayers, in addition fasting. And all of these things are like training that happen in many traditions. Like the other month when we had our gathering here, our fourth Sunday gathering, we talked about Julian of Norwich, and how she shared with us these actions of attuning and receiving from the divine. And so she would, in her presence, she would await for the divine to enter, and then she would allow that to enter, and she would accept whatever happened, and then she would attend, take an action. So many of our traditions have practices that help us attune to the divine and also refine our being. Many times we talk about refining our ego. And through the process of disciplining your body, and that sounds like a harsh word, but in refining your body, that it helps your ego to dissolve. It helps your ego to be a servant. So thank you. Let's come back. So I have a prayer here. This is from the Inayati tradition, and it reminds us about the elements. Beloved Lord, Almighty God, through the rays of the sun, through the waves of the air, through the all-pervading life in space, purify and revivify me, and I pray, heal my body, heart, and soul. So another thing I'd like I have holy water that I believe you gave me this from Lourdes. And so I'm inviting everyone to douse yourself with holy water. So holy water, for example, comes through a tradition, in this particular holy water from Lourdes. And the thing is, in many of our historic traditions, our religious traditions, our spiritual traditions, that there have been prophets that have come from the world, from the divine, and entered the world and shared their teachings with us. But one of the new pathways, the new avenues that humanity is working on now is that prophets, we're not expecting prophets to arrive, but we are becoming refined enough and receptive enough that we, humanity, can function as the prophet. And we function in that way as Julian of Norwich did, where you await for the guidance, you allow that guidance to enter you, you accept whether or not you receive it or not, but you've opened yourself up for that. And then when you do have clear guidance, you take action. And this is where we need the unique, intelligent, new ways of finding solutions. We don't want to repeat what we've done in the past. We want to bring in new thoughts, new ideas. And our prayer then is to be renewed. We want to offer solutions that are real, authentic, true, and make the greatest amount of difference. So when you think about that idea that we must be the ones who bring the solution. We must be the ones who have the insight. We must be the ones who discover, invent, or receive the best solution for all things. This seems like this can trigger our ego to think that we are better than we are because we are not greater than any other creature. We're not more important than nature. We are part of this whole structure, this holistic structure. And so these are important things for us to talk about. And this is part of my contemplation about refining the body. I again want to go back to the something I mentioned about sometimes we can be afraid. We can be afraid of the fire. We can be afraid of looking at the issue, be afraid of immersing ourselves. But we know, or I believe, that when we go deeply into the issue, the needed solution, and look at it clearly, we can solve things, but we need to not be afraid. So this is from Isaiah in the Bible that I'm going to read. This is Isaiah 43. And this is one of those scripture readings and blessings. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you walk through the waters, I'll be with you. You will never sink beneath the waves. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When the fire is burning all around you, you will never be consumed by the flames. Be not afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When the fear of loneliness is looming, then remember I am at your side. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you dwell in the exile of a stranger, remember you are precious in my eyes. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. You are mine, O my child. I am your father and mother, and I love you with a perfect love. Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. So our task is clear, and in our year of transformation, where we're transforming the body, heart, and mind, we're transforming so that we can be healers, so that we can become generous beings, so that we can improve the conditions of the world, not only now, but beyond us. Like the fragrance that was sent around the room, we leave, when we leave our world here, we leave a fragrance behind. And our fragrance, hopefully, is beautiful, refined, beneficent, and we benefit, and everyone else benefits as well. So what we can do sometimes is have a sharing now. We are more and more sensitive to the fact that we live stream a little bit of the service, so we often save the sharing part until we've closed off the live streaming. So I'm going to mention now that we would love to hear from all of you, but we can do that in a few moments. And for now, we're going to talk about, we're going to do an invitation for donations and for people online to visit our website and make a donation, and here we can pass a plate. Thank you so much. And while that's happening, if it's okay, I'll talk to you about some of the upcoming gatherings. Like next Sunday, we're going to have Isla come back, and we'll have a full day of chanting and dialogue. And then in 2 weeks from today, we're doing a luncheon. It's an interfaith luncheon where we're going to share with you about the history of interfaith. It'll be on April 30th. That's not 2 weeks, that's next week. It's next week. Anyway, good thing I'm talking about it. So we're going to serve lunch, and then Michael's going to talk about the history of interfaith and how our community here is part of that long, beautiful history of interfaith that exists. In addition to that, we're raising money for our visit to the Parliament of World Religions, which will be in August. So several of us will be going there. And we all have workshops we're presenting at the Parliament. And you all know about the Parliament of World Religions. It's offered about every 4 years. The last one was in Toronto. And the time before was in Salt Lake City. And one of the profound experiences I had at the Parliament in Salt Lake, was that there's like 10,000 people. 10,000 people of many different cultures, many different ages, many different belief systems. And this idea that it's a fantasy for us to get along in the world. This is perfect. This was like heaven. It was just perfect. And what an opportunity. We also have a history of Parliament where Jamal does presentations, and Gretchen, Mother Gretchen Rowe, who established Peace Camp International, met Father Centurio at the Parliament at Salt Lake City, and has now done a collaboration where Peace Camp International is not just here in Seattle, but it's in Uganda and also India. And that was a profound blessing for our community to be participants in the Parliament. Does anyone else want to share about what else is happening?
I have a quick one, if you might.
Thank you.
Just for people to put on your radar screen, Rich Ader and I are considering a kind of a study group of that 13th century priest, mystic Meister Eckhart. And so we're going to see what kind of interest there is. That I'm assuming, because he's such a beloved character, that Meister Eckhart should draw people. We want to start the first Saturday in June, and it'll be live and it'll be here. And we'll have readings that we'll share, and hopefully lively discussions that result from that. So, for those of you who are interested, just put on your calendars, or at least consider starting the first week, Saturday in June, and we'll bring Vice Eckhart in here to join us.
What time is that morning?
To be determined.
So I have one more reading, and we have a special treat that Isla Ross today will be sharing with us, a healing ritual. And so I'm just going to do this one last reading. Thank you. This is from a woman Her name is Rachel Lindemuth, and it's from an article that she wrote called God Rising, Rebirthing God Through a Sophianic Approach and a Mystical Understanding. May we realize we are one with all, that the divine is actively creating, and that humanity and all of creation are a part of this work of being and becoming. May we go through the pains necessary for this new birth and experience the sweet release of freedom that allows us to live life to the fullest and love freely in life abundant. A pure sense of being and relation, absolute connection. May we see anew and participate in the building of the mystical body that it might reach its fullness. It begins with surrender. Sophia is fierce, and yet she comes with a gentle invitation to trust, to say yes to her initial stirrings. As we do this, she leads and guides. We begin to experience her in and through everything. The more we surrender to her gentle flow, the more intense it becomes, and we will eventually find ourselves standing under her waterfall with a new understanding of ourselves, of creation and the divine. We will be co-creators alongside her in the new rising of God for which the world is so ripe and ready. May it be so. So, shall we pass out water? Okay. So we're going to pass out water, and Isla's going to do a healing ritual. Thank you. We don't need this anymore because we're not on screen anymore, right? Okay. Thank you. Can you pour water? So shall we... So we'd like to say goodbye to everyone who is online, and we'll deepen here together in person.